Just a minute. Okay, I think the recording is on, so we're good to go. Thank you for drawing my attention to that. Okay, so let's dig in, right? Let's look at what we have to do today. We're just going to transition this. Okay, so the training agenda for the day, we're going to be, of course, we have done the introductions. We're going to establish some of the ground rules. Please mute yourself, Jenny. We're going to look at introduction to project management, setting up the scene, training, wrap up, and QA. So this is going to be a very exciting journey. It's going to be very interactive. All those who have had experience in SAP would love you to um, contribute. Of course, if there's any need for that, I'm going to be asking questions, so please pay attention. It's going to be a very interactive way because project management on its own is really about people, it's about organizing, it's about planning. So we're going to see how we can, you know, um, learn from each other based on our experiences out there, based on our journey so far. Okay, so the basic ground rules we have, which is basically just to set the scene, is basically for timing and attendance. Because some didn't accept the invite, so I didn't know the number of people I were expecting. So subsequently, please accept the invite so I get that feedback. And please don't interrupt. You can raise your hand or drop a message. I'm going to see that. During discussions, we will value your contribution. So after every session, I'm going to pause. I'm going to throw some questions. Please, no question is bad. I would really love to hear from every one of us because we are from different backgrounds and we have different experience when it comes to practicing SAP. All right, so please, you can always ask questions for clarifications. At the end of the training, it's good you connect with anyone here. You can collaborate, you can relate this new knowledge you have learned, and I guess, and hopefully in the future, would give you updates if we have similar sessions like this, right? So these are just the basic rules. I think we're all very good with it. Um, um, so we're just going to go to the next. Then, what are the learning objectives for today? Okay, so at the end of the session, you should be able to understand the basics of project management and its objectives. All right, we're going to be looking at the Agile methodology, project management. Very briefly, we're going to be looking at SAP S4HANA methodology. We look at the rise with SAP, the journey. We'll actually understand what that's all about. We'll look at report readiness. We'll look at tools, support, and services. We'll look at discovering SAP Fiori, SAP readiness check, data migration cockpits, and of course, test management. We're just going to look at so the idea or the goal, the aim of this is basically this, right? Most consultants have experience with configurations, some have experience with end user activities. Only few truly experience an SAP direct project onboarding process. Right? So this course will avail you the opportunity to have a first-hand experience about SAP S4HANA project management methodologies, the various tools available to you and your clients for SAP projects. I guess the course would make you understand that project management in SAP is a very big part of having a successful project. And of course, we have a data migration person here, and that's also a very big part of any project. So we're going to learn this, how to assess these tools, how to connect the SAP community, prepare you to be an informed, successful SAP S4HANA project manager or a business analyst, of course, or a consultant. So that's why we're looking at this course today. We're not doing any config. We're just going to learn the basics of what project management looks like or should be like in SAP. All right. So let's begin this journey. Okay, so let's just look at basically what we call project management, right? And I'm just going to remove this definition and I'm just going to ask. And the floor is open, please. When you hear the word project management, what really comes to your mind? Uh, Please just feel free, unmute yourself, and just give us your what you think. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I'll think. This is James. When I think of project management, the first thing that comes to mind is all the activities, how to successfully manage, and um, all the activities that comes into play into a project until its completion. How to tackle any, I don't want to say shortcomings, but
Yeah.
has to successfully navigate, every sequence of that project until its completion.
Okay. Okay. That's nice. Thank you very much. I've got some very key activities, um, issues. Very good observation. Very good contribution. Thank you very much, James. I'd like to hear from any lady. So we have balanced class. Um, Jenny, Beatrice, any of you? Patience? What I mean, when you hear project, you see project all around us. So just what do you think?
I think project management has to do with maybe a person managing a project. It can be done in a different methodology. Like when I have experience with Activate 13, I think they use this Agile methodology.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I think also the former one was like Waterfall or something like that.
Yeah.
So do SAP project, it has to do project manager organize all the processes that is going to be used in SAP implementation.
All right.
They carry out the project management with the project, I think product owner also, and all the consultants. They carry everybody along, and the project management I think is in charge of holding daily meetings with the consultants and other people involved.
All right. All right. Thank you very much. A lot of concepts there. Product owner, activities. Yeah. Wonderful. 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 Um, so project management is as simple as getting married. It's as simple as um, you know, getting a degree. It's as simple as finishing your SAP training. So the concept is basically I have to go that simple because it's just about for example, I want to earn a degree. What do I need to do? So you have a goal, then you have to there are some activities you need to put on ground or put in place. You have to manage those activities. So I think project management is about just managing the activities that will help you achieve your goal. That's just basically simple as it can sound. But let's look at it in a much more broader way. Project management is the process of leading the work of a team to achieve all the project goals within the given constraints. Somebody said issues. This information is usually described in project documentations created at the beginning of the development process. The primary constraints of all projects is scope, time, and budget. So we're going to relate it to SAP very soon. I just want us to understand what the concept of project management is because When it gets to SAP, it's, you better understand why what you're doing, right? So, like we can see here, there are three main. I could pinpoint the main points. It's a process. Yeah, so it's a process. Process would mean a methodology, a method, a way of carrying out certain activities, right? It also would need a team. So we're going to have projects will not accomplish themselves. So we need to have a team. That's where the SAP consultants come in. Every project should have a goal. I mean, the goal is at the end of the day, what do you want to achieve? Well, relating to SAP, you want to deploy SAP S4HANA, and so that the clients can use that software for their day-to-day operations. Now, why now this information is, of course, we have project documentations, which is a very, very important piece. I think is when I worked with the Big Fours, I understood how much they value documentations. In fact, for every single thing you actually would have to document, they take documentations very, very seriously. And I think I learned a lot from that. But in accomplishing projects, you would face the three major things, which is scope, time, and budget. And the SAP consultant is very much involved in the first two, the scope and the time, because that's especially scope. So when we go to the methodology, we would see how how SAP achieves its project based on the scope of the scope of that project. So basically, project management is that simple. It's just about putting resources together to achieve a certain goal. Now, it's the application of processes, methods, skills, knowledge, experience to achieve specific project objectives. Process, method, skills, knowledge, experience. So if you're in a typical SAP project, you would, of course, we know the methodology is more like the methods. You have a process, a way of going through your project, a structured way. We can call it the agile way. We have skills, of course. We have different consultants, different users, different stakeholders. So you bring all these resources together and manage them properly, then you can deliver on what your deliverables are. So, in a nutshell, project management is as simple as getting a degree. I want to get a degree. What do I do? First of all, what processes do I need to go through? I need to apply. I need to submit certain documentations. What methods do I use? When I'm admitted as a student, how do I read? How do I pass my exams? How do I attend lectures? How do I cope with every of the systems? Also speaks to the skills you have in terms of communicating, in terms of even reading. If you have a way of reading, then at the end of the day, when you put all these small processes together and you're able to get a degree at the end of the day, you have successfully completed a project. So when we hear the word project, it's not just about construction. Project is anything that has a start date and a finish date, and it has, at the end of the day, you're supposed to achieve a goal. It's a project. Anything that has a start date and it has a finish date, and at the end of the day, you have a goal that you have accomplished. It's a project. So we're not going to go very deep into that concept because our focus is, on S4HANA. So let's just look at the objectives. It's to produce a complete project which complies to client objectives, requirements. So project management, the goal is to complete that project in line with your client's objectives. So as an SAP S4HANA consultant who is involved in a project, you would see that from the day one, you would have contact with those we call the stakeholders. Right. So I'm going to ask, please, in a typical project, who are your stakeholders? Like, let's say, let me give a scenario. Your company wants you have been consulted as a consultant, and you're on the field. Who are the likely people, or who are the likely people you're going to be coming in contact with? And just give me an idea of those you think would be responsible directly or indirectly, to that project. So I'm asking
Okay. To me,
yeah,
the stakeholders in every organization differs.
yeah,
I can take an instance, my own organization. The stakeholders in my organization are the executive management. The stakeholders in my own organization are the board of directors. The stakeholders, in my own organization are also typically the heads of department, even the end users of that particular software or product that you want to deliver to them. So there are vast of stakeholders, like as I've mentioned in my own, the executive management, the board of directors, the senior, even the middle management. They are also stakeholders, but their feedbacks are also welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's a good one. Anybody has anything to add? So I think focus on the internal stakeholders, because these are people he would most likely meet. But an SAP S4HANA consultant will also have those we call external people who are not even part of the organization. So can anyone think of those who are external that you're going to be relating with as you carry out your project?
Yeah, I guess sometimes the shareholders of the company who are not working in the company.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, shareholders, good. We even have the tax authorities. We could have the vendors, because of course when you do vendor verification as an AP person, you're going to be sending out letters to the vendors to, for example, verify their account balances with the company and all of that, right? You're going to have customers who most times you need to also verify data from them. You're going to have I've talked about tax authorities. So you're going to have you're going to have third party consultants. So I'll give you an example. In some projects, there are third parties that could be handling some other processes within the project. So you can have a project where, for example, KPMG will be sourcing the consultants, another company will be doing the configuration, another company will be doing data migration. So all these external third-party agents are also your stakeholders. So that's why an SAP consultant you have to think very broadly, because the role of project management is you're going to be meeting a lot of people, you're going to be interacting with a lot of people. So you should know how to manage each and every one of these stakeholders. Very, very important, right? An end user can frustrate you in as much as the CEO of the company. So it's very important that at the end of the day, you meet the client's objective, because that is what qualifies you to have a successful project. But for you to meet these objectives, you have to identify these stakeholders and work with them. We're going to see that in details as we move forward. So we have here project managers, contractors, subcontractors, you know, these people are called influencers. They can influence your projects. So it's important you understand. So that's basically what they are. That's basically what we're trying to talk about. The objective basically is to reach out to all these people. You're going to be working with a lot of people. So SAP is not just about configuration. SAP has a side where you have to work with with people who are not actually who will not actually see the back end of your system. Right? So basically, a project. We're just going to see what the project is. The temporary and unique endeavor designed, to produce a product or service or results. So a very, very important characteristic of a project is that it's temporal, right? So there is no, even going to heaven is a project and it's temporal. It has time. I mean, until probably Jesus comes or whatever we believe happens. Life continues, but as long as you're a human being, immediately you go down, that part of that project has ended. So there is nothing that, so everything that is temporal and is repetitive is something you have to be doing every day. And it's unique. Once you're done with it, you have achieved something very unique. So that is actually what a project is, and that's how an SAP consultant should see a project. Right? So understanding these basics helps you to really relate very well when you get to projects, because I don't see project management. Like, we don't learn it. You just send an SAP consultant to the field. He knows his configuration, he knows SAP, but he doesn't know how to relate with stakeholders. He doesn't understand why wasting time will affect the project performance. He doesn't understand the project goals. He doesn't understand, the nature of that project, and that's very, very wrong. It's very, very wrong, because as when you call yourself a consultant, I think one of the very, very important skills you should have is project management, because you are going to be managing a process within that project. So it's important you understand the concept of project. It will help you deliver better projects when you have better insights into project management. It's a very, very, very required skill. So I'd encourage us to get to know more about it. So let's go to the talk of the day. So the purpose of this class is basically S4. It's basically how we can leverage on projects in SAP. All right. So we're just going to see a little bit about SAP, about the methodology, and all that. Then we take it forward. I don't know if anyone has any questions about what a project is. If you think you want to ask, maybe what you're doing now, you want to ask if it is a project. How do you know it's a project? Any question at all, please, you can always raise your hand. I'm going to give you the floor to ask your questions. So thank you. Now, we know about SAP. Most people will have done a research, but just the point you need to pick out here is that I think last week I saw that SAP is actually the #1 vendor ERP in the world. There's a software that overtook them very temporarily. I think that was Workday. Workday overtook them within the quarter, but of course SAP fought back.
Sorry to say, I just want to add something. I had this Microsoft that overtook them. No,
okay.
I heard Microsoft overtook them. I think this Microsoft CRM or something like that. That customer relation. Overtook
okay, okay, continue, question.
Sorry, that's what I heard. I think since last year that they fall back a bit. Microsoft overtook them, but I don't know how it is now.
Okay. I think for now they are the first, and CRM it's not the entire ERP. It's just
yes.
part. Yeah. So I think Oracle should be able to do well there. But when you look at software as a service, SAP is like the leading.
Okay.
Right? But there are sub modules. There are some different units that, of course, some softwares can do better than but when you put everything I think the rating is based on revenues actually.
Yeah, it's true. Okay.
It's based on revenue.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your addition. So it's basically started in 1972. So I mean, SAP is quite old, and of course, it's a leader in the world. Nobody can dispute that. But the way I'm interested in is the methodology, right? Is the methodology. So you can see that SAP adopts the Agile implementation methodology with role-based detailed implementation tasks. I'm going to explain. But before we go deeper into the methodology, we are going to look at some other slides to better understand. But just take note that the methodology SAP is currently running on, SAP was using the Waterfall. So Waterfall methodology is, of course, some of the issues with Waterfall was that when you finish a process, it's process-based, so it just flows down. So for example, if today you're doing discovery phase, you have to finish everything about discovery before you go to maybe prepare phase. And if you look at the assist methodology for ECC, that methodology followed the waterfall methodology for project management. So it's just you run everything in phases. But if there is, it wasn't flexible enough to accept destructive changes. It wasn't flexible enough to accept ideas. So that came the Agile implementation methodology, which is SAP's activate methodology, which is what we call activate methodology. So SAP, just know that your take home for this class is that SAP uses the Agile implementation methodology, and it's based on roles. It's role based. It's not process based, right? So you have detailed tasks. You have jobs broken down. You have jobs that can intertwine. So you don't have to finish, for example, discovery phase before you have to go to prepare. You can actually find a way to work across different phases. So that's one thing that the Agile methodology actually preaches. So we're going to see more about this methodology. You need to understand this methodology for you to actually implement an SAP S4HANA project, right? So you need to know, if you're asked probably in an interview, yes, SAP is S4HANA is using the Agile methodology. ECC uses the Waterfall. Then you can, if we go to the next slide, for example, you will be seeing what this Agile is and all that. I mean, we're going to explain it far better. So I'm just going to explain. I don't know if you have any questions about that. Please just signify by raising up your hand. So we're just going to look at specific concepts, right? So let me ask. You see this word SAP S4HANA. I know I've shared the screen, but I just removed it for us to talk about it. Before now, what were you thinking? Like when you see S4HANA or ECC, what were you thinking? Were you thinking, especially S4HANA, what were your thoughts? Were you thinking it was just an abbreviation or it was just a style? I would like to know what you thought. Lillian, Beatrice, what did you think? I don't know if we've seen the S4HANA before, but when you heard the word S4HANA, what came to your mind? Yeah, patient, you can go.
I think the S4HANA is the new version from SAP. Yeah. The HANA is the database, I think.
Yeah.
And they, like you said, they use this Agile methodology to implement S4HANA. And S4HANA is a app, not like the CC that use this GUI face, or what's it called? GUI face. This one is using experience like app. This new experience and is on Fiori app.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks. Any other person?
Okay. For me, even though Patience has really, answered the question, but I'm still wondering how SAP, came up with this acronym S4HANA, right? Before there, I'm still wondering what it stands for, right? But the HANA, I understand, is their database. They're not only on database, right? Yeah. So now I'm still wondering what that for is doing there.
Do you know I went for one interview. They asked me what was the for. I didn't know.
It's fun.
Funny.
Like something from HANA.
Seriously?
Yeah. Oh, it means something. Yeah, so I mean, we're going to learn that today. It looks very simple and easy, but yeah, I mean, the guy was, these Indians, they have a way of just being funny. What is SAP? I said, I know HANA is database. What's the 4? What's S4? Well, after that, I guess I had to go and check it out. So, so we're going to learn it now, right? So S4HANA was released in 2015. The key thing there is difference. Maybe in our sessions, when we go deeper, we're going to take time to look at the difference between ECC and S4. But the thing that stands out is the in-memory database. So what this means is that before, ECC uses your hard drive to save data. And if you're using a laptop, because we use the hard drive, that's why anything that happens to your hard drive can basically just crash the whole system. So, and to retrieve data from a hard drive takes a lot of time, takes a whole lot, and a whole lot more information I'll give you, as we proceed. But in-memory means that it uses RAM. It uses the RAM as the major storage center. It doesn't use the hard drive. When it's on the RAM, it's very easy to retrieve data. It's very easy to process data. I mean, I read somewhere where they say S4HANA processes data about 1,000 times faster than ECC. Why wouldn't it? I mean, ECC is not in the cloud. ECC is 100% local. All right. So if you're moving anything to the cloud, it has to be very, very fast. So I mean, if you put two of them together, ECC and S4, they don't have any. Yeah, the difference is very clear. So please, if you have questions, please let me know. Lucy? Okay.
So, sorry, that's what to say. So S4HANA means now is the short form for S4, that is SAP Business Suite for HANA, for SAP.
Exactly.
So I know that the four there is a 4. F-O-U-R. For F-O-R or something
it's a fourth.
It's a fourth edition.
So HANA, yeah, is a 4th edition. HANA stands for High Performance Analytical Appliance. We did not know that. I just say HANA.
Yeah, me too, I tell you. So maybe next year now we have S5 HANA. Go continue like that. Maybe after 2 S5 HANA, S6 HANA, I guess so.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So just like ECT, we had EHP 7, EHP 6, EHP this, EHP that. I believe that's how we're going to be growing.
Yeah.
So HANA stands for High Performance Analytical Appliance. That's the database. So before now, SAP used to use a database from Oracle and from Microsoft, right? So in 2015, they decided to have their own database. So right now, you cannot install HANA on any other database except for, you can't install S4 and any other database except for HANA. You can't install it on any other database. It must be HANA database. Then the S4 there stands for Business Suite 4. So like patients have rightly said, we're going to be seeing 5, 6, and probably as time goes on. Right. So it's nobody to approve. The S4HANA is the simplicity and the ability to work on large volumes of data. I give you that. I give SAP S4HANA that. I worked with ECC for a while. I still have the database on my system. But when I did the project with S4, man, I mean, these guys did some very good work. And the beauty of it is just how, I mean, just we're going to see the interface probably in our next class as we go on, but it's so easy. You don't have to cram any T codes. You don't have to memorize anything. They have tiles or what we call small apps that you can click on. You can search for anything you want to search for. I mean, I give it to them. S4 is simply very, the user experience is wonderful. I think that is what every ERP should be. I mean, SAP gave every ERP a big run for their money when they brought out S4HANA. It was an experience. And of course, very soon, it's expected that companies will migrate fully to this platform. Okay, so we have said that SAP uses the Agile methodology, but let's just see briefly what this says, right? What is the Agile manifesto? When you say the word Agile, what do you mean? What are the core principles? What are the processes? What are the philosophy? Right. So the waterfall, right? You can see them by the side. By your left hand side, you have the previous methodology, and by the right, you have the Agile. Now, Agile prefers it prefers there is individual and interaction. Now, it prefers individual and interactions over processes. Like I said, the waterfall is based on processes, so you have to follow those processes. But Agile is looking at interactions, looking at individual. That shows you how flexible Agile methodology can be, right? It prefers a working software to an over comprehensive documentation like most softwares have, or work. But in S4, I can tell you it's very seamless. So it prefers something that works. You improve on the process as you go than something that is comprehensive and has a lot of documentation. It's customer focused than contract negotiation. So he wants to satisfy the customer. He wants more collaboration with the customer. He wants the customer to be part of the process instead of more of a very contract-like relationship where you give me, I give you. If you don't give me, we stay where we are. So here he wants to see more of customer collaboration, and all that. Right? It's responsive to change. Very key for the Agile methodology. While the waterfall focuses more on following that plan. If we have a plan, if we have this process, we have to follow it to the end. While the Agile methodology preaches that, I mean, change, we can always adapt to change any phase of the project. So this is a take home for you. When you say SAP uses Agile methodology, you should be able to explain why and how does this happen. So it prefers these 4 things rather than the other 4 one by my right, based on where I'm sitting. So it's a working software, it's customer collaboration, it's responsive to change. So if you use SAP S4HANA, you will see these features in the software because working software, every year there's an upgrade, every year there's an addition, every year there are new things that are being added. And it was really a change from ECC, a very wide change, I must say. So I mean, if you use S4, you won't want to use ECC. It's just as easy as that. It might be very difficult to adjust at some point, but when you do, you don't want to come back. So that's been the experience for me so far. So I want to ask, anyone here used S4? Anyone?
Yes, I do.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. So I mean, what did you observe? What was your experience like?
From technically, there's not much difference between
Okay.
ECC HANA and S4 HANA, but the few differences basically are the introduction of the file, SAP file, right? Meaning
Yeah.
that wherever you are, even on your phone, you should be able to do your transaction, unlike the ECC, because ECC then was actually sitting on-site database, but for S4 HANA, is basically on cloud, meaning that you can access your transaction wherever you are. But in terms of performance, functionalities, and all, I don't see much differences. The only difference, just very few differences that I've observed so far.
All right. Thank you for sharing. So I want to ask another question. Have you imagined what would have happened to SAP when COVID happened if they didn't have S4?
To be honest with you, it would have been a disaster. Yeah. What it means that everybody has to go to the office to do the transaction.
Yes.
Yeah, it would have been very crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, they still have one thing in common. I think both uses the same customizing process in this Pro.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the only thing they have now in common.
Okay. Well, that's a good observation. Yeah, man. So that's why cloud has come to stay. Those companies that were using ECC fully, I wonder how they did it, but of course they had to look for other options, which would be to remotely host your server. But those things come with a lot of risk, security risk, right? If it's not the S4 and you have other hosting options, it has the risk attached to it, right? So it was a good one for SAP and for every cloud-enabled product in 2020. In fact, I believe in 2020, 2021, the demand for SAP, console. In fact, that's what is driving the growth in the market as of now, right? Demand of moving from this local way of doing things and moving into the cloud. And so it was a good thought. I think they were. I mean, it's no doubt it was a good option, right? So basically, this is just for for knowledge sake. We're just going to look. This is at the waterfall. So in case you've been asking, waterfall. So this is the waterfall. This is the agile. Remember, I said ECC was using the waterfall. S4HANA is currently using the agile methodology in deploying its process. So so you can see the waterfall conception. I think you can see the flow. Like you have to follow it down. You have to follow the process to deployment. But you see in Agile, you have initiation and analysis. Processes can be very flexible, right? You can move even from testing back to design. Because if you test and the client is not okay, or there are still some issues with the config, you have to go back, maybe to design or construct phase. So this is just a pictorial view of the difference between waterfall. And I believe that most methodologies now are adopting the agile way of doing things. Even as consultants, we need to work in an agile way. We have to be very open in our thoughts, very open to learning, and that's actually what it means to be agile, right? So of course agile is more of a collaborative philosophy that talks more. If you go towards the Scrum side, we tell you more about teamwork, about you know, stakeholders, analysis about requirements and all that. So this is just to give us that insight. So let's look briefly about SAP Activate project methodology. Right. So now we are bringing SAP into project management. So if you're asked, the methodology or the framework SAP uses to deploy its project is called the Activate methodology, project methodology. And it's important you understand it before, apply it during your projects. Now, it's more than just the way it runs. It's more than just a part. In real life, it's more of going through these processes. And I'm going to try to explain that as we move forward. Right, the Activate methodology is a modular and agile framework that help project teams with detailed steps needed to deliver each phase through the project by providing accelerators that makes work easier to accomplish tasks. So SAP has this methodology. We'll know more about it. That starts from discovery to prepare to explore to realize to deploy. This is the more like the process you go through in project management when you are working on an SAP project. So you have to have this concept at the back of your mind, and even in the field when you're doing your work, because you're most likely going to ask, when they say, did you do project? Finish the methodology. You started from the beginning of the methodology and you got to the end of that methodology, which is deploy and run. Right. So this is the methodology that SAP uses to deliver every of these projects. And when we go deeper, we'll see what prepare is, we'll see what explore is. Prepare basically, it's a 6-step, 2 is missing here, but these are the core activities, right? So it starts with discovery. When you sign off on the project, when you have had your meetings with the client, there's an agreement as to every other thing, you sign off, right? Then the project starts. And in the discovery phase, we're going to see what you do. In the prepare phase, we're going to see what's expected of you as a consultant in all these phases. And you would in the project methodology, you understand what you're configuring. That thing you're configuring as an SAP consultant will make a whole lot of sense to you when you know at what point will the business be needing it. And how did you get those requirements that you are configuring? What processes did you go through? So you see that an SAP consultant is not complete. SAP consulting is not about configuring system. That's just one aspect. It's really about, that's why they value consultants who have done end-to-end configuration, because you must have experienced real projects. You must have gone through a lot. It's a lot, right? It's a lot. It's not an easy task, but from the first day, you have work to do, till you finish the project. Sometimes you pray that this project should just end. At that point, you see people trying to hurry the client. You need to close this out and need to hold up. For you to be a complete SAP consultant, you need to understand, you should have gone through the end-to-end process of project management, of course, the Activate methodology. And that's the essence of this training, to just give us an insight into the activities, what is expected of you, when does this thing happen, how does it happen, and who is responsible for what. We're going to see that. So I don't know if you have any questions at this point, but we'll just move forward. So, Rise with SAP. truly, right? When we hear the word SAP, SAP is SAP. SAP S4HANA is SAP S4HANA, but Rise with SAP is actually a product in SAP. I think I need to also explain that. Because except you're really in SAP, you might not understand some of these terms. Now, Rise with SAP is a cloud-based SAP S4HANA offered by Rise. So Rise with SAP is like SAP's is like a product, but we don't. It's like like I would say a product that's being marketed, but inside that product you have S4HANA. So Rise with SAP is it's like the process of bringing you into SAP. Yes, please, Patience.
Okay, I have a question to this Rise with SAP. You said, okay, like it's just like you can say blockchain with SAP, something like
that.
Right?
I agree. Okay. Yes. So just to break down that, it's just so I would say that it's just I'll call it a marketing slogan or a product in a product. So what SAP did was that when you hear the word S4HANA, 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 they didn't just want S4HANA. They felt it was too traditional that we're just selling a product. They wanted an experience. So what they did was to create a product that would take move or stand up or migrate. And so that's the idea. You need to come up and you need to see what S4HANA is offering. So that's why it's a cloud-based S4HANA product offered by Rise with SAP. It provides real-time data analytics, statistics, and of course covers the key modules: financials, accounting, sales, vendor management, and the rest. So Rise is just a journey. It's just a journey, and that journey happens before you start using SAP. The journey happens like it happens, throughout your project, but you have to understand that journey before you start your project. So you can see my graph there, right? It's saying that this is like a cloud, right? In the product SAP offers, we have the business network, which is like a service. We have the technology platform, which SAP uses, which is the S4HANA. We have the different options, which is cloud, hybrid, and the rest of them. And we have your Fiori app, which is your Launchpad service. So, and what is added? What are other processes that are added to this? Other processes that are added to this product. You have business process analysis and redesign. I'm going to explain all these concepts as we move forward. You have continuous process improvement. They are all, you can see, they are all added to this service, software as a service. Sorry. You have readiness check. We're going to see what all these concepts are. We have custom code migration app. Then all these, we call them the infrastructure and operations of SAP S4HANA. So the thing is, a consultant, being a consultant is more than configuration. It's actually to understand the products or the services that SAP offers, because that will also help you when you join a project. If you join a project, if you are the one leading that project, you cannot lead a project without understanding these tools, because you're going to be interfacing with SAP a lot. So for me, for example, I'm leading a project with KPMG. We have Scrum meetings with SAP every week. And imagine if you don't even know the kind of products they're offering. It's very, very embarrassing. They are here to guide you, but they would guide you, but they require some level of learning and knowledge from you. So it's not just about the client. SAP is also a stakeholder. SAP is also a stakeholder. So for you to even um, um, properly relate with the client, you need to know the kind of services, or you need to know what SAP can do. You need to know the products that SAP has. Right. So we're going to see those products. We're going to see those things that you need for your project. You see all these business process analysis and redesign, readiness check. Now, before you even start your project, SAP has a tool that we call readiness check, which you would actually normally use to check the state, the assist of the business. Where are they in this moment? Where are they? So, like I said, the essence of this class is to just open us up to what ACP actually does. Like when you come to a project, what would you experience? What would you feel? So these are all tools that are available in SAP that you need to deliver on your projects. So it's, as you can see, it's more than configuration. It's actually, and this part of it, SAP is actually another job of its own. It's another job role, right? So you can have people we call now SAP Finance Business Analyst. I think SAP Project Managers. Those are those that really, if you're not in the config space, if you're not in the end user, support phase, if you're in the project phase, which most likely, depending on the region where you are, you would most likely need a very strong experience when it comes to project. Because when they ask you, do you have project, do you have end-to-end experience? The first two phases of the Activate methodology is basically about project management. Right? So if you say you have done end-to-end and you did not understand the first two phases of that project, then you have not done end-to-end, project work or end-to-end consulting work. So these are just basically some of the tools that SAP uses to deliver on its cloud, on its RISE with AWS S4HANA product. All right, so I don't know if you have any questions, but as we go in, we're going to see what these tools are used for, how are they used during projects. Okay, so let's look at the line of business with RISE. Okay, so basically LOB, which is the line of business for S4HANA, started with these very 5 major business lines, right? Sales, finance, sales, procurement, manufacturing, asset management, and supply chain. But of course, it has gone far than that. We have things like Ariba, we have success factors, we have a lot of standalone products. But the core of the S4HANA system hinges on these 5 very important modules, key areas. Right. So from the graph there, you can see sourcing and procurement, you can see services, you can see the industries that SAP serves, of course, customer industries, finance services, discrete industries, public services, and the rest of them. Right. So, but basically, the essence of this line of business are just basically to look for areas of optimization. How will SAP optimize your business? How will these tools be used to improve your experience? We have customer-specific innovation opportunities. We have industry insights. Now, what this is trying to say is that when you are involved in your projects, you would also, of course, for us here, our focus is in the line of business, of course, around finance. But understand that what this software, what SAP S4HANA is trying to do is basically to just optimize the way your clients do work, right? Is to give a more customer focused kind of service. And it's necessary that you understand this going into your project so you can know how to also relate with your stakeholders and explain to them, because sometimes they can be, they will start saying things, what's this SAP? We don't spend a lot of money. What? I don't understand it. You have to be able to relate with them and give them some of the benefits of why you think, yeah, we're actually in the right space. So this line of business just helps to give more industry insights into how SAP S4HANA is faring in that space. So So, of course, we have a lot of LOBs. Some of the tools we're going to see in details when we move to, as we proceed, we're going to see things like custom code migration app, which I think somebody here is within the data migration space, which is a very, very important tool for data migration, which is available. We're going to see the readiness check, how, when you're moving from ECC to S4HANA, how do you know the company is ready to move? We're going to see the cloud ALM. We're going to see lifecycle management, application lifecycle management. We're going to see what is the life cycle of every single project, every single methodology, every single phase in that methodology. So this is basically just telling us in project management in SAP S4HANA, you have a lot of activities that happens that are not configuration. So we're going to look deeply now into these activities, and we're going to look at this life cycle management. We're going to look at the tools. We're going to look at the support. Okay, so before you go into any project, there are 5 rules for implementing S4HANA. 5 golden rules. And it is in the best interest of the consultant to understand these rules. If you find yourself in a project or in a business analysis role, you have no option than to really go through this, follow these rules as you engage the client. Number 1 is you have to adhere to fit to standard. So what does it mean? I'm going to take my time here to explain, because these are very important issues in project. Adhere to fit to standard. We have detailed in SAP Activate, we have leverage standard processes. So what this is trying to say is that SAP will always advise, if you're in a project, SAP will always advise, use their standard processes as much as possible, if possible 100%. In most cases, it is not possible. So what is the standard process? What is fit to standard? Now, when you go for a typical SAP project, what do you have? You have, let's say, let me give you a scenario. A company is into manufacturing of bottled water, and they have their own processes as it relates to their business operations. One of their process could be before we make payments, 3 people will actually approve the invoice. When we raise receipt, 3 people will another 1 person will approve before the money is finally paid. That's like a standard process. You could also say, we use 3 documents for our sales process. We use the sales order, we use the invoice, and we use the sales receipt. That is a process. Now, SAP is saying that, and of course, SAP has when you buy your SAP product, they already have these processes in the system. So SAP has an invoice. SAP has it has a sales order, has an invoice, it has a receipt, it has some other documentations. So, and okay, let's say for example, the client has another document that they call customer verification document, which SAP doesn't have. So SAP is saying that, number 1, check the Activate methodology. Activate means follow those laid down processes that has to do with the activities for every phase. Number 2, try and use what SAP has in the system as much as possible. So you can tell the client, well, you have 4 documents for a sales process. SAP actually has 3. But I think that if we use the process flow, if we use the process flow within SAP, we can we may not need the fork document that you have because SAP is able to do this and do that. When we come to fit to gap workshop or functional specification workshops, you're going to know how all these things happen. But the advice is that try and encourage your clients to use the standard process as much as possible. While, of course, in cases where the client is insisting, SAP has options. So that is what the first rule is saying. So if you're in a project, have at the back of your mind that SAP has these golden rules. As much as possible, encourage the client to stick within the standard processes within SAP. Do we have based on my illustration, if you, I mean, you work in a company, do you think it's right for SAP to insist that you use their process as much as possible, and all that? So let me know if you have any questions. We all came with golden rule is maximize pre-configured solutions, which we call best practice. Activate is the methodology we use to deploy your project. Best practice is a pre-configured solutions. We're going to see all these things live. When we talk, we're going to log into the system. I'm going to, because I'm an XAP consultant, I have my S number, I'll be able to log into some areas within the SAP database and show you how some of these documents look like. So use the best practice. So what this is saying is that SAP already has some pre-configured, so especially in S4HANA, right? Most of the configurations come pre-configured. So if you're buying SAP, for example, and you say you are in the pharmaceutical industry, you're going to buy a product that is configured for that particular industry. That's what SAP will deliver to you. And when SAP is delivering that to you, they already have some pre-configured solutions within the system. So instead of trying to go and do configurations again or change what is there, it's advisable that you use the pre-configured solutions. So it is, and that is what we call best practice in SAP. Best practice means use the existing pre-configured solutions that we have in the system already. It will save you a lot of time, cost, and this basically fits into what project management is. So you have to leverage on these processes to deliver your project within scope and on time. So we're going to see, I'm going to log into one of the two and show you what the best practice looks like in SAP. The third is use modern integration technologies. Of course, Beatrice, you're the data migration consultant, right?
Hi, no, I'm not a data migration consultant. Actually, I'm a data steward on the project.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's nice. So you're going to definitely go into data migration at some point because that will speak to you very well.
Yes.
Yeah, to speak to you. So basically, if you had done data migration in ECC, you go through 14 steps. I mean, it was a whole lot of work. People did not want to get to that point. You have to go through a lot of processes migrating. When we mean that, I mean things like list of customers, list of vendors, GL accounts, customer balances, fixed assets list, and all that. Those are data that you have to migrate into the S1. So if you're doing a project for a company that has I was privileged to work in a project that they had a lot of customers, probably more than 3,000 to 5,000 customers. So if you're going to go through that migration step 14 steps. It was very tedious. So SAP is advising use modern integration technologies. We have what we call the LTMC, Legacy Transfer Migration Workbench. We're going to also see that. So SAP in S4HANA brought up a data migration tool that, even though you don't need to be a technical person, you don't need to have any codes. You can do migration yourself, even as a functional consultant. Right? You can do migration yourself. Data migration has been, in fact, they did a lot of work in that area. So right now, the migration process is very simple, very easy, just very few steps, and you can successfully migrate both your transactional data and your master data into SAP. So when you learn SAP, you created transactions one after the other. In a real life project, you have thousands of information or data you need to migrate. You can't be creating them one after the other. You have to use the tools, which is the SAP technology platform. You have to use some APIs. APIs would be other apps that can work with SAP. You have to use these tools to properly migrate your data. And that's the third rule. So it's important that you know these tools as an SAP consultant. So when you put in your CV, you have done data migration, you need to be careful, because you need to now provide, if they ask you what tools did you use, you need to know. If you start calling LTMC, LSMW, you're in the past. LSMW was used in ECC. In S4HANA, we now have what we call LTMC. We have some other tools that we use, LTMON, modeler, and all that. So use the modern tools as much as possible. Use extensions. So extensions are third-party softwares that work with SAP. So if there is a process that the client wants and SAP cannot deliver it at all, I expected those kind of questions. So please feel free, open your mind and think. What if there is a process? Yes, please. Okay, Chuku, you can ask.
Yeah, sorry, Kelechi. Please,
Yes.
can you mention those tools again that we use in S4HANA?
Okay, I'm going to give you. You'll still see it, but there's what we call. Yeah, you'll get that.
Okay, no
but
problem.
There's, just for notice, you can write legacy LTMC and LTMON. These are like workbench. But as we go on, you're going to see those tools as much as possible. So there are consultants that are just data migration consultants, right? So everybody is not functional. We have consultants we call, what's their name now? Their job is just to do data migration. So in case FICO is disturbing your head, data migration is a very, very important part of the SAP of the process. It's a very, very important part, and we have consultants just for that purpose. So if you're good with data, if you want to go into data migration, you can be an SAP data migration consultant. I'm forgetting their nomenclature. They have a very, I don't know if it's MDG or something like that. They have their own name. So you can.
Yes, MDG.
Yes.
Data migration and governance.
Yeah, exactly. So you can actually focus on that area and do very well there. So you have extensions. So I'll give you an example. I did a project for a shipping company, and we realized that during the fit to gap analysis, we realized that no SAP tool would solve that problem. What was the problem? It's a shipping company, so the idea is that if you want to, before the shipping process is very unique, when you want to import things, let's say you're here in Nigeria, you want to import something from the UK or the US, you will have an agent in the US. You're going to purchase a container, or the shipping company will have its own containers. So the shipping company has the ship and has the container. The value of your worth is the product inside the container. So you're going to pay them in the US to ship your product. All you would see is when it gets to the port in Nigeria, they're going to load it on a truck. Your product is inside the container. When they drive it to your shop, you're going to offload everything. They'll take the containers back to the ship. Now, they had an issue in raising what we call a sales order. The sales order document in SAP, we could not capture all the requirements. So the requirements like things like bill of lading, a lot of all these shipping terms. I can't remember some of them again. Yeah. Bill of lading, bill of this, bill of that, and all that, all those.
I think Incoterms.
Incoterms, and a lot, international communication work. So the thing is, SAP standard processes, even when they brought the ABAP guys to redesign the form, they still couldn't achieve that. So we have to get a software we call IQ Ship. So they will raise the manifest in IQ Ship in the US. They now created an API. API is like a gateway. Once you create a manifest that will carry the container number, the bill of lading, the shipping details, automatically that IQ Ship will generate a sales order in SAP and generate a sales order number. So that's what we call extensions or third-party apps. So most times, SAP, depending on the industry, SAP might not be able to give you 100% of what you want. But SAP is open. You can bring in third-party applications that will run on your SAP and give you the result you want. So that was how we were able to, yes, Patience, you can go on.
Can we call also this process also tailored configuration or something?
Customized.
Customized or tailored for maybe the specific request.
Yes, exactly. Because once the standard does not fit, once SAP cannot deliver, you have to. So this is more technical. So they would go to the market and look for an API that can fit that process. And sometimes when you're deploying SAP, the client already has something they are using. You get, the client already has a process, they already have a software. So all you can ask, the technical team will ask is, they will find out if that your system can integrate into SAP. And if it can integrate, fine. They will have to do the technical stuff and the linking will be done. So these things happen a lot, in projects. Then the last of the rules is be transparent on deviations and document all deviations. Of course, where there are fit to gap differences, where some processes does not fit, you have to open up to the client and tell them, look, SAP cannot deliver on this solution, but we have options. So these 5 golden rules is supposed to be on the mind or in the mind of the SAP consultant at every point in time. If you're in a project, fit to standard is very, very, very important. You have to make sure you convince the client to stay within that, because it might cost them more, it might delay the project, it might lead to a lot of dissatisfaction. So we try as much as possible to convince the client to stay within the fit to standard process. All right. Okay, so that's that. Please take note of those rules. They are very, very important and keep them in your mind. So why activate methodology? Why are we not using Waterfall? Why are we not using any other process? Why did we leave Waterfall? So what are the questions that customers are asking? Why, how, what? How will the standard business fit to my process? How will I be able to, how do I enable my team to implement cloud solutions? How do I get started? Who is accountable for what deliverables? So basically, when you introduce SAP to them, these questions would naturally come up. So basically, all we the consultant is supposed to use the activate methodology to recommend list of deliverables, list of processes and accelerators that can help the client. But we're going to see some of those accelerators in the subsequent slides. I think we're going to go for if we agree, we are going to go for a 10-minute break, just to stand up, move around. I'm going to start by exactly 10 minutes. So I don't know, are we fine or should we continue?
I'm fine for a 10 minutes break.
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's okay. But Kelechi, can you go 2 page back where you explained this? I just want to note this the 5 golden rules. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just want to write some things out. Thank you.
So it's fine. So we're going to meet back again in 10 minutes, where we're going to look at really go deeper into this. But the idea is that by the end of this session, you would understand that SAP is a whole lot more, right? It's a whole lot more. It's more than what we knew or more than what we heard. And it's a very interesting journey. There are always opportunities in any of these areas you find yourself. But it's good to know when you're in interviews, you speak better when you understand some of these processes. It gives you that confidence that, yeah. In fact, one of the things that if you're asking project questions, if you don't mention things like fit to standard process, activate, this best practice, and all that. Those things just always tickle the fancy of any person who is interviewing you. It means you actually know what you are saying. Right. So thank you guys. We're going to go for a 10 minutes break. So by whatever your time is, just add 10 minutes to it, and we're going to be back. Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Jenny, are you there?
But the way this
Lillian.
time, runs, it's 10 minutes already. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah. Time runs actually.
I'm telling you, my guy. All right.
Time runs. All right. Are we all there? Lucy, are you there?
I'm here.
Christian?
I'm here.
I'm here, Mr. Kelechi.
All right, guys. All right. So let's do the next thing. Okay. So of course you can see that if you follow the rules, you stand to benefit. Um, you have some of the benefits that you stand to gain, and it's really very good. I mean, in practice, right? These rules are very, very important. You start discussing them very early in your project. So we have looked at this, why, this kind of the question. So now let's look at really what Activate stands for. Now we have the 6 stages of the Activate methodology, which the SAP consultant is supposed to follow when deploying projects. If you are lucky, and for example, I don't think he's here. He got a new job, and his role is to start the project. So I think the HQ is in Indonesia, and they want to do a brownfield implementation project, which means that the company has been running in ECC, but they want to move to S4HANA, right? So he's the one to lead that project. That's a different. That is really a very huge task, because you will face these methodologies head on. Some people don't get to experience that. So the methodology says that you start from the discovery phase, you move to the prepare phase, and after the prepare phase, you go to explore, you go to realize, you look at deploy, and you run. These phases are perfect, they are wonderful. But my interest is not just, I know some of us already know the phases. The interest here is not about, it's not the knowledge of the phases. I think some people is also very good to know the phases. But these phases are what typically every consultant who is on a project would follow. Sometimes when you get a job offer, you might fall within any of these phases. You might join towards the realize phase, which is where you do things like end user support training and all that. You might join post go live after the run. You might join at the prepare phase. So, and even during interviews, you're also required to know these phases and explain them as much as you can based on your experience. So the high level activities that happen within this phase is, number one, I'm just going to give you, our next class will have details of this, but I'm just going to give you a breakdown based on my experience. Number one, you have the discovery assessment phase, right? So in this phase, the project has been signed off. By now, the clients or the service provider should be looking for consultants that will carry out these tasks. By now, SAP would have started onboarding the clients. What that means is that they will tell you about their products. They will give you access to the SAP, what we call the sandbox, or there's this other name we call it. It, it goes through some processes, simulations. We call it simulations. So you should know that, so that when you're explaining the concept of project, you should be using these terms. So simulation sandboxes where the user will just play around, they will just try to go around it to know what the SAP offers, check the processes and all that.
So the canvas is through the discover or prepare time.
Through the discovery phase.
Okay.
Yeah, so at this time, the client is we're just going to expose the clients to what SAP offers. These are just very brief explanations. The next is prepare. So the client has gone through everything. So there are certain active documentations that would also you would find in the prepare phase. More of when we look at the methodology, we're going to see the breakdown. So you would probably have the sign-off documents. You will have the other documentations like the project charter, which we start developing, the project plan, and the rest of it. But in the prepare phase, at this point, all those who are going to implement these projects are on ground. There's a lot of fit gap analysis. So at this point, you should start understanding the client's business process live. You should start preparing for things like fit gap analysis workshop. You should start preparing for requirements gathering workshop. You should start preparing for data migration strategy, uh, construct strategy. These are documentations that the consultant is expected to develop. Right. So if you say you're being on a project, you should have cited these documents at one time or the other. It's even in this project where we have the project plan sign off. We have the project charter signed off. Right. So the idea is that is in this phase prepares you for the real work that starts at the explore. So when all these things are signed off and we have developed the strategy we are going to use for requirement gathering, we have developed the strategy we are going to use for feedback analysis workshop, we have developed the strategy we are going to use for functional specification, we have developed the strategy we are going to use for basically all activities during the explore phase. These are real life documents that you would experience in a project. Hopefully I'm going to show you some of them. Now, after the explore phase, you can see fit gap analysis is a key activity there. And of course, prepare. Okay, yeah. We go to realize. Realize is, of course, another very important document is the blueprint. So I think I'm in the explore. So I'm in the explore, right?
Yes.
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 So yeah. So in the explore.
Sorry, I have a question. This blueprint, I thought it's used in the ECC, not in S4HANA. Or do they use S4HANA also?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Just a document.
Yeah, just a document. These things are documentations.
Okay.
Okay. So I'll show you some of these documents. I hope I'll show you that before we go, so you get to feel some of these things. Then you have the explore phase. That is where you start constructing. So you should have signed off on the blueprint. So let me paint a scenario, real life scenario, right? So you have done the prepare phase, stakeholder planning is there. We have done all the strategies. We now go to explore. In explore, the first main activity you're going to do is to go on site or start to see. There's what we call assist and to be, fit gap, fit to standard. These are very, very, very important processes in SAP project management. Now, pick the first one. You're going to have first, you're going to go to the client site, get the assist. What is assist? Assist is what do you currently do now? What processes do you have now? You're not doing to be, you're not doing any analysis, you're just getting requirements as regards what are your business processes now. So the man in finance might say, okay, and you're going to have a list of these processes. So they're going to tell you, so you would actually chart the cost. So you're going to have a document that says I'm going to speak in finance now a little. For example, to raise an invoice, what are your processes? So you're asking the company now, what are your processes? The company will give you a process. They might just say it in the mouth, or put it in a document. But you, when you're asking these questions, you should start documenting these assist processes. Nobody will tell you as the consultant, you should know. So when you're having these meetings, because this is what we call the assist workshop or the fit workshop. So what you're doing now is to understand the business process of the client, one after the other. In fact, if you're in finance, you have more work because the finance process is quite bulky. I hope I'll also show you a blueprint document before I also close this. It's bulky, so you have to, for each process, for invoicing, for payments, for assets, for vendors, for customers, for banking, all these things you hear, all these things you configured, you will have to get the assist. So the business will tell you, okay, for invoicing, this is what we do. For customer payment, this is what we do. For receipts, this is what we do. For assets, this is what we do. So you have to get those requirements at the explore phase. That's why it's called explore. You're opening up. You digest them. You will now organize what we call a process walkthrough. We call it PWT. Sorry. So you organize what we call a process walkthrough. What is a process walkthrough? You're now going to go back, you will now schedule another workshop where we call it onboarding too. Another workshop where you will look at the process walkthrough of the business. So
Hello?
sorry guys, sorry for that. Okay, so you will now actually go back to the client and do a process walkthrough. What's the process walkthrough? You're now going back to the client with the SAP standard process. You're going to show them for invoice in SAP, this is what we do. You of course, you know all your transaction codes, you how to create a customer, how to raise an invoice. So it's like you're showing them the process in SAP. So as a consultant, you are supposed to know end-to-end FI process or CO process because you will show them, like you're going to carry it out using some examples. So you're going to go to the client one after the other. So project is a different experience. And as you're showing them the process, you guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. As you're showing them the process, you're also documenting, because when that kind of meeting starts, immediately you say, in SAP, this is how we raise an invoice. They'll start asking questions. But in our process, we have this. How do we do that? So you just document those questions or those points. But you need to go through end to end user process, showing the client how SAP works by standard. So a consultant who does not know how to do end-to-end transaction will have a problem. When I mean end-to-end, I mean, let's say you take AP. First, you show them how to create a vendor master data. Second, you show them how to change a vendor master data. Third, you show them how to edit a vendor master data. Fourth, you show them how to delete a vendor master data. Fifth, you show them how to transport a vendor master data. Seven, you show them how to how to, there's this other one, how to view changes to that. So you need to know as a consultant all the end-to-end processes of your finance process. Okay, hi, patient.
I just have a question. As okay, me, I'm sales distribution. So
Yeah.
end to end. Now you have to
Okay.
use the system. So
Yeah.
if a customer asks for quotation and you send them a quotation, and also maybe they place an order based on the quotation you send to them, you have to just like show them how to link the quotation to the order, and the whole process be till you go till you do the what's it called, the receipts. When you do delivery and receipt and everything, this process you have, that is what you call end to end, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So what you mentioned is order to cash.
Order to cash, exactly.
To see. So yes, you will show them order to cash process.
Just like to create, view, and to change maybe
Yes.
and everything system in the system. Okay.
All that. They're going to show them how those things work.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question. Please ask questions, please, especially if you're wondering, you can just ask questions. So you're going to show them in this phase how it works. So after you've done the process walkthrough, you're now going to have another workshop where you do fit to standard. So you have collected their assists, you have showed them to be. What you will do now is you will now do a full before the fit to gap analysis, you will now do a full requirement gathering. So in this requirement gathering, you're telling them, you have told me about your process, and I've showed you what SAP has. Please give me all the documents, now we have to, in this phase now, you design a workshop where you collect detailed process and put it in a process flow. I'm going to also show you that how SAP has its process flow. So the process flow is like a chart that shows for everything. This is to be. This is the standard. This is the transaction flow that is going to happen. However, when you go, because this is standard in SAP, it might not be the same thing as the client. So when you do your requirement gathering, you need to now produce your own business process flow. What will that look like? It will still look like this one, but you're going to be taking into cognizance client's requirements. Precious, are you still raising your hand? Okay, you're going to take into cognizance client's requirements. And of course, there is an app we use to design this whole thing. It's called, we have BPNN. I'll show you that, and we have VCO. So guys, it is you and me that will design this process flows. So it's a very important activity it's part of the explore phase, and will be expected to actually do that. So I just needed to show you that, so you have a pictorial view of how these documents look like and what they are. Okay, so the essence of the explore phase is to arrive at what we call, of course, even in your explore phase, you should have your functional specification ready. Functional specification talks about how you're going to be designing the system. The SAP consultant develops the functional specification. But the end product of all these things you are collecting and designing is to produce the business blueprint. So the business blueprint, let me see if I have one here. Okay, so I have one here. Let me see. I have one. Let me just check. Okay, so I think I have one here. just show you what it looks like. Okay, so these are a business blueprint for HP. So you can see the contents. So you have all the modules you're going to be implementing. This is speaking more to ECC. So what do you have here? This blueprint is the Bible. Anything that because here you have process flows too. Anything that the customer is going to be configuring, you at the end of the day, the functional consultant will come up with a business blueprint. How did you come up with the blueprint? All the requirements you gathered, all the process flow you have done. At the end of the day, it will end in a business blueprint. And of course, you have to have your functional specification document. All right, so we're going to learn more about these concepts as we go on. So it's a document that basically shows you how you're going to do your configurations. But it doesn't, the functional guys, they take care of it. They design it and they prepare it. And before you can do anything on a project, it must be signed off by the stakeholders, especially the very influential ones. You're going to have a stakeholder analysis. You're going to try to understudy. That happens in the prepare phase. You're going to get a list of all the stakeholders, know their positions, know their level of influence, know who approves what, and all that. You have to have that stakeholder analysis document. It's a very important documentation within the prepare phase. So once you have gotten those blueprints and everything is signed off, you move to the realize. Realize is where you do your configuration. So everything in the blueprint, you have to bring it in SAP system. And I think that's where the journey starts for those who do configuration. So recipe consultant that does configuration. Okay, Beatrice, you can go on.
Yes, I just have a question regarding to the documentation. So source to target document or STTM or TDS, where does that come from in this process? Is it on the preparation or is it before blueprint?
Yeah, you're talking about data migration documentations, right?
I think yes.
Okay. So in the prepare phase, you would have normally what we call a data migration strategy.
Okay.
Yeah, that strategy, because you need to understand the client's business before you come up with these strategies. That strategy will tell you, number one, what is your, how are you going to, when you get the data, how are you going to refine it? How are you going to clean it? What kind of data are you even getting? Who are you getting it from? How are you going to transform them? What will be how are you going to migrate them? Are you going to be migrating only transactional data? Are you going to be migrating both transactional and master data? What kind of data will you get? So that strategy is what you have to prepare that strategy at the prepare phase. Then at the realize phase, you will now implement that strategy. So in the realize phase, another team might start looking at it, because requirement gathering would gather all the data you need, even all the data, both transactional, both sales, purchase, assets, logistics, all the data for all the modules will be gathered. So at that point, the data guys will start working. What are they doing? They will try to clean the data based on the instruction of the functional consultants. Normally,
Yes.
and how are you going to clean it? SAP has standard data migration tools that you will use to conform. For example, we got data from a client. Now, in our accompanying code, we told the system that we're going to be using 6-digit numbers as GL numbers. 5-digit numbers as customer codes or an invoice numbers. Now, when we gather requirements, we saw that the legacy system the clients were using, the data, their GL numbers is 4, customer codes is 4, and SAP standard is 5. So you need to tell the client that, look, for your process to fit, we need to have what we call a numbering convention or a naming convention. What is naming convention? It's like how every code we have, what is it for? So we need to now transform the data to fit into what SAP has as a standard requirement. So the standard is that GL should have 6-digit codes, but the client's data has 4. So we have to go back to the client and say, how do we do this? Do we add 2 digits to your codes? Because the construct guys will be constructing based on 6. Data migration has seen 4. So you have to go back. The client will say, okay, you can add our company name 2 digits to the code. Come back. If it's a straight up numbering, they can add 2 zeros. So with that, you can go back to your data and start refining. Data migration, data guys they have a lot of work to do, because sometimes they need to know which one is relevant. Clients will just give you the one I had recently, they just put it in a hard drive and you just have information scattered everywhere. So each module will try to sieve out those information and get the one that so what happens is all the team will work together. They will look at the data. The finance guy would know that which is relevant for him. The guy will take that which is relevant, the SD guy and all that. Now, when we are done as individual units, we are going to bring back all this information, because all this information we need to go into the blueprint. So blueprint has SD, FI, CO, all the modules. The way you're going to configure the system is in the blueprint. Right. So data migration strategy starts from the prepare phase, spans through to the realize phase, because they will be working once the requirements are being gathered. Which is it clear?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay. So they are there throughout the phase. In realize and deploy, that's when you see them most very well. So remember, guys, these activities from discovery to realize happens in the dev system, the development system.
Mm.
Yeah, where we can make all the mistakes and make all the issues. So SAP has 3 landscapes that he uses to deploy his project. One is the development system, the other is the quality system, and the third server is the production system. All these activities we're talking about are still within the development system. And in the realize phase, that is where the configuration starts. In the configuration, the people configuring will configure strictly to what is in the, I will say it again, they configure strictly to what is in the business blueprint. That's their scope. Anything that is not in the business blueprint, they will have to create another session, or what we call a Scrum session, and they will have to add it into the script. So it comes, there's a lot of back and forth. So you can be deploying and a client says, I forgot to add this process. You have to create a meeting for that. You have to ask, what is this process? Is it really relevant? Is it a showstopper and all that? If it's relevant and it's still within scope, you have to review your blueprint and add it back to your blueprint and make sure it's configured. Now, in the realize phase, you do configuration. Remember, in the explore, when you do your fit to gap analysis, you would have seen some processes that are not in the SAP standard. That's where we will now introduce the document we call RICEFs. What are RICEFs? RICEFs are basically, they are forms, they are workflows, they are interfaces and all that. Now, what does that document do? Let me show you what a typical RISF looks like. Let me check. I don't think it's here. So these are RISF. So in case you have not seen it in real life, so this is an example of enhancement, for example, for a RISF. Like I said, these are live documents. So you can see that the RISF will explain what the process is. What is SAP standard not appropriate or sufficient? Why is it not appropriate? You put the reason. Alternative approach, you put the reason. Out of scope, is it out of scope? Do we have an alternative? What is the assumption? What are the dependencies? And which document is linking what to what? So how do you do the design? Of course, if it's about interface or tables. Now, guys, in RISF, you need to functional consultant needs to understand what we call tables in SAP. Unfortunately, I don't think I don't know if anybody, do you have any idea of what tables are?
Sorry, what?
I go.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I think tables are just the place where the database holds the mass information.
Yeah.
Tables have each other. So what you see in the form is actually could be a relationship between 5 different tables for different information.
Okay, so thank you very much. So a table is based, yeah, please go on.
Okay, for me, the table is like the storage center or the heartbeat of your data, right?
Yeah.
Whatever thing you post goes into a table and is being stored there for future references or future use, right?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Perfect. Do you know how to get to your tables in SAP? Anyone? Okay, do you know how to get to it? Okay.
Yeah, there's sorry, I forgot. There's a particular code that you type.
Okay. SE16N.
SE16N or SE16.
Yes.
Great one, guys. Great one. So I want to also say that before you join a project, remember that the technical ABAP and basis guys, they are called the technical consultants. They don't know English. They don't know invoice is not working. They don't know you need to add a name in the invoice. They don't know those things. What they know is that give me the table name. Give me the technical name of that document, because you're going to be populating the technical name if you are doing the configuration. Now you're going to, when you want to do a RISF, anytime you have issues, what you will put there is the table name, because the technical guy does not know FB60 or FB70 or Migo or Miro, VKOA. The technical guy knows table or technical names. So you need to use your FC16N and find the table that has that issue. So it's another task that the functional consultant will need to have at the back of their minds. So if you don't know how to access tables for all your for the windows that you use, or for so let's say if you want to probably run a customer invoice, once you put the transaction code, when you enter a transaction, to explain further, that transaction will go and save itself in a table, or the table controls how the document operates. So when you enter a transaction, it's tied to a table in the database. So for you to work on that table, you need that technical name. The technical guys need the technical name. So every table has a technical name. So when you're developing your enhancement, when you're doing enhancement of forms, and all that, the ABAP guys will be requesting for the table name. So you have to have that at the back of your mind when you're doing your configuration. So basically, all these things you learned, they are very, very important. In fact, in a live transaction, you will see all of them. You can see the functional specification template guide, right? So this will guide you on how to do your functional specification. This is directly from SAP. So this is the guide. So it will tell you, the tools you need to use. So you can see the tools, workflow report, interface, conversions, enhancements, and all that. So you need to go through the specification guide, and that will tell you how to manage gaps. So you use these RISEF documents to manage gaps. So if, for example, the customer wants to add the country code in the, okay, Jenny, I'm coming. The customer wants to add the country code in the invoice, and the standard does not allow you to do that. You have to go and develop a RISEF for that gap. And that RISEF, you have to put some very basic information about that table, and it goes to the technical consultants for them to develop. Okay, so Jenny, you can go on.
Mr. Kelechi, I just wanted to know if we're going to get this document.
Yeah, most of them.
All right.
Most of them. You'll get them. Okay. So basically, that's what happens. So in the realize, you configure, you do migration integration test. So at this point, we will start migrating transactional and master data information into the system in the dev database. So we'll do that migration, we'll do all the necessary testings, UATs, integration tests, and all those tests in the system, right? Then, of course, when it's done, we move to deploy. In deploy, we'll carry out another round of tests, which we call cutover activities. Cutover activities are the aim is to tell the project manager go or not to go. At this point, do we proceed with go live, or are there showstoppers? That's a very, very important activity in the deploy phase. And of course, by the realize phase, you have started doing training for the users, and make sure that before you get to deploy, all the users are well trained. Then deploy phase, you carry out integration test again, you carry out cutover activities, you confirm, check, double check, triple check. Because after that phase, in the deploy phase, you are now in the QA system. In the deploy phase, you have migrated, transported all your configurations. Remember, migration and transport, they are two different things. Migration is to bring in data into the server. Transport is to move your configuration from one server to another. All right, I'm going to come again. Migration is to move data, transactional and master data, from within the dev system. It could be from Excel, it could be from the migration tools. So you bring in the data into the server. Transport is to move all your configurations from one server to another. So you will move, when you're done and you have done the first level of test in the realize phase, you will now transport all the configurations to deploy. And who does the transport? The person who is doing the configurations would be saving the configs. When you go through SPRO, you normally save all your configs, and all the configs have their codes. So once you have saved your configs, you will transport them. However, when we transport, we don't finish the transportation process because we are not technical. So you will just have to move it to the transport tool. The basis guy you take it up from there. They will just ask you what is the transport code. Then they will do the final transport to QA. In QA, you will now have to do another level of test. This time the test is between all the consultants in the house will have to sit in a place, or they will have to have a meeting. They will have to post. So yeah, you start posting transactions to see the end, to make sure all the configs are correct, to make sure the integration points are okay, to make sure if the SD person raises a sales invoice, the FI person would see probably a debit to the service or a debit to the inventory. To make sure that the integration points, some with OBYC is one of the very popular integration points with FI and MM. You make sure the finance guy will make sure all the GLs in that migration points are working properly. So it's a whole lot. Project is at this point, the functional guys are the ones doing all these tests. So if you're in finance, you'll most likely do this test. Then when you're done with deploying, you're ready to go live. So immediately you transport again from the QA to the production system. Yeah, please, questions.
I just have the question. This migration, so these tests, that is, if you are doing the test, you say the functional consultants. That is, it mean that it's all consultants in every area, like MPP and SD and finance. They have to test the system, like maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, we do like order to cash. You just like do enter and
something like
just
that.
check the system if it is working.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you test it, if the transactions are posting correctly and to the right GLs. So the FI guy will stay with the SD guy. In fact, FI is the most FI, I would say they are the most stressed out and as in
what about controlling? Okay, controlling is also together.
It's FI now. See, that only them. And if you're doing product costing, you will be there. If you're doing COPA, you will be there.
Wow.
What?
Did you do sales distribution configuration before?
No, I've not. But I understand the process, and you will test with them, so you will learn their own. You know what they are saying. But the truth is that the person who delays the person who they say always delays the pro is the FI people. Why? MM, see, MM and SD.
Yeah.
We'll finish configuration decades. And the thing is, for they will need the FI person to produce the GL for the integration between MM and FI. They will need the FI person to bring GL between SD and FI. Everybody waits for FI.
Yeah, because they have a lot of things now. They have a lot.
Kelechi, do you know why it's like that?
Yeah, they have
Why?
MM.
The finance guys are the backbone of every organization.
Yes, it's true.
Right?
Every organization needs a finance department.
Yes, whatever thing that goes into the system, if it's not satisfied by the finance guys, that means the system will be messed up.
Yeah, it's true.
So they are the backbone of every organization. So I don't believe,
especially when it has financial implication.
Exactly.
Yeah, they buy, sales they sell.
They have to
balance. They have to balance the account.
Yes, exactly.
They have to balance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if sales sells and the thing goes to hit purchase ledger, it's a problem.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. So and the project finance is more than configuration. In fact, we have people we call testers. There are people who their work is to test. If you go in a big project, there are people who will just do the testing. Your own is to configure. But if you're not on a project that's that big, you have to do the testing yourself because you're the one that provided you're the one that did the config. Right. And another thing I think why finance will have to always finance is the last to leave any project. They are the last. Why? If after you have deployed and you have gone live, of course, there's what we call go live strategy. The functional guys will design what we call a go live strategy. The go live strategy will carry information on the go live plan. So when do we plan to go live? How do we check? How do we confirm that all the systems are fine? Who are the stakeholders who will be involved? What is the pre and post go live activities? Is a whole lot. So once those things are signed off and you go live, for another group of consultants, it could still be you. For the projects I've worked in, it's still you, the functional consultant, that will now do, because you configure the system, you will be the one to support because you know virtually what was configured. So sometimes they bring in new people if the functional guy is not willing to continue. So they will do support. Why finance guys will have to stay back is month-end activities. At the end of the month, the first month post go live, they have to also wait and check that the financials that are coming from every other module is reporting correctly. And there are month-end activities for every module. There's month-end activity for SD, for MM, and for most importantly SD and MM. So you need to, if there are reconciliations that need to be done, if there are bank reconciliations and all that, the FI guy will have to stay back and make sure the month ended well. If there are any issues, you have to revert back. Then you go to what we call the change management process, strategy. Change management is how you keep the client focused on the goal. How you make sure that you don't just deploy and run. No, you have to have a plan on how you would not just support them, but how you would encourage them to continue with the change that has just happened, because it's not easy. I'll tell you that for free. When people change their systems, it's very, very difficult for them to adapt to that change, because somehow some people will lose their jobs. Some will discover that they were not actually fit for that role. There's a lot of things that happens, so change is difficult. And it's at that first month, you will know whether you're a consultant in that first month, because you're going to be seeing errors flying left and right. And users are going to be calling you. I don't know how to do this. What happened? I did this thing, I can't find it again. How do I reverse? How do I change? Yeah. It's not an easy time for the life of any consultant.
Yeah, Kelechi, I want to comment. Sorry that I'll take a few minutes to comment on change management process, right? I think SAP, they were smart enough to introduce SAP Activate methodology. Why did I say so? Because this methodology now, even before deployment of SAP or whatever to any client, they already have a feeling of what the system will look like. Do you understand me? So for me, or my concern is this: if an organization, you have done a demo session, let's like kind of, end-to-end demo session with a client, and at the end of a project, there are several, and you have done your blueprinting, fit to gap analysis or whatever with the client, and all these things has been signed off. And at the end of the project, there are still issues, there are still challenges. I see it as a gap or a knowledge gap. Do you understand me? So in this case, if SAP has introduced Activate methodology, I see issues being less compared to.
Yeah.
I don't know, Jonas. I'm just.
Yeah, I understand. I understand perfectly. They know for the plan. They are very experienced. SAP has been there for years, so they know exactly what will happen after you go live. So what they try to do is to come up with this methodology that can prepare for those kind of issues. You know, that can keep you on your toes and prepare you for this kind of issues. So you're very correct. Yes, that is the idea behind the Activate, is to make sure that you successfully go through these phases and finish up your project. But in real life, boy, it's a different ball game altogether, right? Users can frustrate the hell out of you. So that's why SAP is a continuous learning environment, because if you've not really faced a project before, then the experience is waiting for you. But that's why we have sessions like this, to prepare you also to understand what tools are available for you, how to go about with your projects, and how you can get the support you actually need. You know, how you can leverage on all these strategies to prepare you for your project. So that's the idea. So you can see that if you're a consultant that is just that is focused on configuration, your work is basically around the realize phase. Then maybe once your configurations are good, you might not be there. Other people might do the end user support. So there is a project management side, there is a functional side, which is the construct, and there's a end user support side, which is post go live. So you can see the opportunities that SAP consultants have can fall within these three areas. You can go in as a business analyst or a project person. You can go in as a normal consultant who is going to be doing configurations. You can go in as a tester who will test the integrations. You can go in as an end user support. So any role, so that's why when you say when you say consultant, and it's difficult to see somebody who did all these activities from start to finish. The consultant might be involved in the project, but during the construct phase, you might not find the person, but the person will always there to support somehow. You can have a consultant in the construct phase that was not part of the project, or will not be part of the support. Right? So when you're structuring your CV, it has to be pointing towards a certain area. You can't be everywhere. So you have to say, okay, I did end. When you say you did end-to-end configuration, at what point were you the one? Because they will ask you, were you the one that carried out all the activities? One person cannot carry out all the activities. So you need to be careful. Yes, you supported. In some cases, in some cases you supervised. In some cases, but in the design or in the configuration, you actually did the configuration yourself. But other activities, you were supporting the team, and or you did more of the requirement gathering and the business analysis activities, and you supported in configuration as much as possible, or you did support when it was go live. All right, thank you. You can okay, Chuku.
Okay, Casey, thank you so much. In fact, you have answered part of the question that I wanted to ask, because most times during interview, I want an experienced perspective to this question.
Please share.
During interview, especially like our Indians, they always want to dig deep into you. They always ask, okay, how many projects have you done? Have you done end-to-end, implementation and all this? Like as you said, one person as far as consulting is concerned, SAP can now start a process and end it.
Yeah.
So, although you have answered part of it, but most times they usually ask, okay, have you been involved in end-to-end project implementation and all this? Most of all, we always say yes. And when you say yes, to them it might sound funny. Does it mean that this organization? And if you say, I look as if you never participated.
This is your laugh now, wow. The laugh is transferable.
Okay, I understand you perfectly well. In fact, when I started this my SAP journey, I've seen some things. So I'll come back to you, patient. So I got an invite for what's their name now? Whether it's TGI or so. So they were all Indians, right? And you know now we used to blow up our CV. So you blow up your CV that you did configuration, you did data migration, you did license, you did everything. You know, when I said it, the guy looked at the other person. I started laughing. They looked at my years of experience. Barely 3 years. You did all these things.
I will share my own experience when you finish.
My brother, they just asked me, and they say, okay, you did everything, okay. Then I asked me, how do you say you did my. What did you do? How did you transport from QA to prod? And I mean, just give us the scenario, bro. Hey, Nadia, I just hang there. I knew that you can transport, but these guys want to hear real life. They want to know, understand if you know what you're saying. They were very embarrassed because the way I sounded, yes, I've done it. I was so sure. Yeah, tell us how you transport from. You said the T code. Yeah, we know that's the T code, but what did you do, my brother? If you're not saying things like RISEF, you're not saying things like you use the tools. They want to hear the kind of tools you used. They want to hear the transport codes. They want to hear who you worked with. Okay. After the interview, right? I think they all left. So somebody stayed back. The guy advised me that look, he can see that this is what most people do, but he just wants to advise me that, and that's why when I see people's CV, I I sometimes I laugh because if you see a typical experienced CV, somebody who has experience, probably 10 years more than you yourself, you won't see all those things you're putting there. They are very tiny and very small. And it's people that have 5 years, 6 years that blow up their CV like that. I've seen a very senior person. His CV is less than 2-3 pages with few lines, key points of what he did. He didn't even stress himself, you know. So thank you for sharing, right? Patience, I'm going to come back to you. So please finish with your story.
Okay. Now, like as you said, Nigerians would like to blow up our CV, and most times we get into trouble with it. I actually did an interview, that was that I think IBM here in Canada. IBM here in Canada. So they were looking for an SAP support person, right? Not just for a project, but support, maybe raising of tickets, resolving of tickets, and all those things. I now shared my CV. The first level of interview, I skate through. Then the second one was with the hiring manager. The guy looked at my CV. He said, at this role, because I was part of Oceanic Bank SAP implementation, but on the customer side. Now he said he worked in this organization as an SAP support person. I said yes. He said, but as a support person, you're not supposed to do configuration. You're not supposed to do testing. You're not supposed to do, but as if you did all these things. Does it mean that you as both as both as a support and as a consultant? Like as he said, I felt embarrassed, right? I tried to defend myself, try to speak all the grammars that the guy said no, that he has been in this system for many years. If you are a support person, my dear, you don't even near configuration. You don't even
see. You don't even see it. You don't even smell it. You don't even know where. Nobody will even give you access to SPRO.
Exactly. So, and that lands from there. It's an experience that we all can learn from it too.
Yeah. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much. Patience, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. So you said it as a support person, so as SAP consultant working in the company. Did they ever allow you to use Pro in customizing? Is that what you said?
No, I said as a support person, you don't even have access. You don't even have access.
So you don't have access. So then why is somebody a consultant? Because as a consultant here, you have to do a customizing from the system when you are consulting. Yeah.
No. So you see now that support are in levels. So let's say you are the first. We have 3 lines of support. Let's say, and most times we are the first line of support. The first line of support means that once the user has a problem, if the super user within the organization cannot resolve it,
yeah, they call
the
you.
next is you. And what are you resolving? If it's an end user issue, let's say the person wanted to post invoice, but mistakenly selected the wrong customer, and he wants to know how to reverse. That one doesn't need config. You can give the person the T code to revise the invoice and post a new one.
Exactly.
But if the error is that maybe they did not do month-end activity and they cannot, or maybe it's functional in the sense that the person who did config missed out a process and the thing refused them to process.
Exactly.
Maybe they wanted to do payment, but the payment is not going, and the thing pops out. SAP will always pop out the red
error. Yes, it's true.
So the first line of support will analyze the error. He knows that he cannot solve that problem because he doesn't have access to the configuration screen. He will escalate it. So that's why you raise tickets. You now will now raise tickets to a higher person, telling him that this error you think is functional. It's not end user. It's functional or it's technical.
Okay.
The person you're raising it to might be a senior consultant or somebody they gave access to configuration. It's still support though.
Yeah.
But this support is in levels.
Okay. So but this
okay. Yeah.
I'm just
continue.
Now, this organization, at least while working there, they are supposed to take you into a full project to do configuration as time goes on, because they cannot just allow you to be support for all the time, not allowing you move forward to take part in the configuration.
Some people, it's not everybody that was, even though I think if I'm not mistaken, right, maybe 60-70% of SAP in quote consultants don't do configuration. They either do business analysis work, that's project work. I mean in or end user work. The people who do configurations are the Indians. Because I think they have the structure, have the skill, they are very knowledgeable. And an organization cannot carry their config and give you to come and start doing trial and error.
In Germany here, I think they are not trusted much anymore. Anyway, in Germany, you have to know the German language because it's their SAP is written in German. And as far as I know, Germany, they have a lot of problem with Indians because that's what I heard. because they say the most of the time I know how to do this and everything. They tested them already, and the majority of them they failed. And Germany is a country that what you're doing, you have to have a certification for it, because they don't allow and they don't accept. They say, okay, you say you are SAP consultant. I know, so I've interviewed a lot of Indian SAP consultants, and they'll tell me 95% of them, I have 10 years experience, I have this experience, but do you have certification? They don't have certification. And that one, Germans, they are very skeptical people. They say, no, I don't believe that I have that, even though the person knows how to do it, and I'm sure they can write exam.
You're not satisfied to do it.
Exactly, they'll tell you they are not satisfied. Not like we have Nigeria background. Nigeria, you can study about chemistry and you work in the bank. Yeah, in Germany, you cannot. If you study biochemistry, you just go and work in the line of field of biochemistry. So they are very, very specific people, and they expect you to follow the line. So if you say you want to change the line, you have to learn that thing you learn to do.
Non, sortez. Ne revenez pas.
That's what they say there. So it's just like that. But yeah, so now if I'm going for SAP, maybe consulting interviews. So now they say, so now I can specify, I can say, okay, what have you done and everything. So I can specify and pick, you say, okay, I've have experience in this, I've have experience in that, not say everything, because they won't believe.
They won't believe.
Yeah.
Nobody can nobody can do everything. Some you will just supervise, some you will ask, so they will ask you, what did you do? So if you say you did configuration, they ask you which modules did you configure. Say,
the modules is like sales distribution now, or maybe
yes. Inside sales distribution, you might have small functions like master data.
You have this thing, they call it, like here in Germany, most of the time they ask this, they call it this Preiserfindung. Okay, I cannot remember it in English. Preiserfindung is this prices, customer prices, this PROO, and they have all these things. So that is what they always look at, the prices for customers, specific customers. So we have different process.
Yeah, they have different pricing. Is a very important process.
It's very important in sales. Yes.
In fact, sometimes I see adverts where they're looking for it's price something. It's 2 words. I will remember it. I know it's 2 words.
Yeah. It's in German or in English.
In English too, it's 2 words.
I think price analysis or something.
Yeah, price something.
Yeah, so price. In German they call it Preiserfindung, and there is a whole lot of process, because like when the customer buy, they have percentage and everything. You just put it up in the system, so it comes automatically outside. So they are very crazy about that one, and their system is all in German language. So you just imagine I'm doing SAP in 2 languages. Sometimes very, very intense and crazy.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so the take from here is that you see how SAP is very wide. So it's good to really point it out, so that we can, put ourselves in a better position when we sell ourselves. It's truly, the process is very, very enormous. So let's look at briefly some of the tools. So we call it the enablers of digital transformation. Some of the tools. Okay, so the first tool, if you say you did project, you see these 3 tools, you must tell the interviewer how you use them. So I'm going to hopefully open some of these ones. So the first is the SAP community. SAP doesn't joke with this guy, because when you have issues, apart from calling your support person to ask questions, you have access to the SAP community. You can actually go there, drop your questions, and you will get an answer. Even if whether it's a config question or is a technical question, you will find a lot of SAP experts that will try to talk, give you an insight about what you have asked. So it's a very important tool. I'll just try. Let me see if I can open it. Okay, so I have an error here. Let me see if I can get the link. Let's copy it. Let me go back. So I want to just show us these guys. So let's have a feel. So this is a very important tool. So I'm just going to run this here. Let's see the SAP Activate community. Okay, so this is what it looks like, right? So you have these are feeds. These are like topics about every. So you can see Discover Phase. You can see SAP Activate. You can see Best Practice Explorer. You can see all the phases: Explore, Realize. So this link will take you to the community, and here you can actually ask questions. If you go to ask questions, you have to input your SAP user ID. And this will come either if you work with an SAP partner or you're an SAP consultant certified by SAP. So I have my user number, so I'm going to try to log in. So you see why you need to be certified. Look, somebody who is not certified might know configuration very well, but somebody who is certified will get access to a lot of support. Like, you will know a lot more about SAP because you will have access to information that just anybody cannot have, and that is a very big plus because SAP is very wide. You need all the information you can get when you're on a project or when you're doing your configuration. So this is so now I'm logged in. You see the point. I can come here, put my question title. Maybe I'm having issues with a particular process, and put the details here. I kid you not, in few minutes, if not an hour, you're going to get feedbacks, as in from experts that will attend to that your question. But you see, if you're not an SAP certified consultant, you will struggle until you get to that point. But the beauty of us of people who are certified is that you have access, you have tools that you have access to. So I want to encourage us, as you are trying to, let nobody tell you that certification is not important. Certification is as important as getting a job. But of course, we need growth. Me, for one, I did not get a job until I got my certification. Some other persons route might be get a job first and save enough money to get your certification. So I'm a life member with SAP, so I can easily access here and ask questions. So this is one of the tools, enablers, very, very important. I mean, extremely important. You have not been, when you there are some projects you go, right, you don't even have any answer. The error is so crazy that you don't even know where to go to. You call your colleagues, some have not experienced it before. What are you going to do? You check online, the questions are everywhere, like nobody's really talking about it. As a non-SAP consultant, if you're not certified, I think at that point you might feel very bad. But for me, no way. I would go to activate community, put the question there. SAP consultants from SAP who are experts will answer me, and I go and do my job. So you see some of the benefits that comes with actually being a certified person. Very, very important. You should have that maybe as your 2023 or 2024 goals. The next two we are going to look at is the SAP Roadmap Viewer. So when you tell somebody you have worked on a project, they expect you to tell them that you used all these tools. Please, you have to mention all these tools that you used. You cannot discuss projects without discussing the tools. So you see now, all these tools are there for you irrespective of the phase you are in a project. You might be in discovery phase and you need roadmap viewer. Roadmap, even what the word roadmap means that this is something you should have looked at before you start your project. You need to see the viewer. Sorry, this is trying to come up. Sometimes it takes a lot of time. So when I display the roadmap here, you will also see why being an SAP certified consultant has another advantage, because there are lots of information that SAP makes available to us that may not be in the public. It might just be within. Why that is opening, because this takes a lot of time. The next tool is SAP Best Practice Explorer. Now you can see that the roadmap gives you access to implementation guidance for your digital transformation. It gives you guidance. It's a roadmap. Number two, you can download methodology assets and accelerators. Very, very important. And you can see the roadmap viewer here, which I'm trying to open. Okay, so I'm here now. So for certified consultants, you have access to view, access to these tools. For when I want to go to an overview, I can say explore all roadmaps. So you can see now that I have different options: on-premise, cloud, upgrade, general. I want to see for a methodology for private edition. You can say I have success factor, warehouse, Ariba, field glass. So guys, I can easily go through this roadmap when I want to deploy my project. So this is the roadmap. The first year is discovery phase. In the discovery phase, I have strategic planning. So I'm going to go to I'm going to click create an innovative strategy and high level roadmap. I'm going to click that. That is going to tell me the strategy. Now you can see that the purpose of this task is to create company-specific innovation strategy to drive high-level multi-year roadmap. So you can see I have options here: best practice, transformation navigator. You can see more tools here. So SAP is one of the why I love them a lot is that they give you everything you need to succeed in your project or to be successful in your project. There is a lot of information, but sometimes people have privilege to these informations because, number one, if you're a certified consultant, you will be a better consultant. Yeah, even if you know I think 80% of people know SAP as in terms of configuration and support, but there is an SAP that has a lot to do with, that has a lot of project information. So that is my roadmap viewer. So it's supposed to guide me, see, I can get stuff on integration, operations and support, data management. For example, if I click on data management, it will give me an accelerator I can use to find my way. So there are more artificial intelligence, new implementation, RISE with SAP adoption framework. learning SAP is like life. It's life. So all these tools are there to help you understand SAP better. The last tool is the Business Practice Explorer. So you can see that you can access best practice content. It's here you're going to see process flows. Power your greenfield project with ready-to-run business processes. In real life, you cannot just run and go and do configuration. No. All these things are part of what makes you a consultant. So I'm going to copy this and show you the Explorer part of this. Okay, so I'm going to allow. Yes, so this is the Explorer. Now, I want to look at the solution packages. We have different packages. We have Solution Manager, what's new, Cloud Release. So I'm going to Solution Packages. In Solution Packages, I'll go to SAP S4HANA. Here, I'm going to look for, I want to look for Cloud. Let me go to Cloud. Now, I want to look for best practice for, you see best practice for analytics, best practice for intelligent robotics, the best practice for public sector. So I'm going to look for best practice for cloud. Now it takes me here, which we call, this is the solution scope. So guys, if I have this information, why won't I be a better consultant than somebody who just learned SAP, how to do configuration? I will tell you why, how. So in this best practice, for example, I want to see more about accounting and finance close. Accounting and finance close. So I'm going to click on the drop down. Then I'm going to, I have other options here. You see, I have asset accounting, I have financial close. Let me go to asset accounting. This, I think most people know about this. So I'm going to go to asset accounting. There is for MM, there is for SD, there is for HCM, there is for best practice for a lot of modules. So I'm going to go down. Now you can see process flows for asset accounting. Process flows. So I'm going to go to process flows. So I think it's opening. So you can see my process flow. If I want to learn SAP and understand end to end, if you say, in fact, it's even good you know end to end than configuration. If you know end to end, it's not T code. I mean process. Okay, patience, please.
I have a question. Okay, I just have a question. If you are in, for instance, in real project, you can just go in a, maybe you are this. I think asset account is like controlling. I think, right?
No, asset accounting is asset accounting.
It's asset accounting. I think it has to do with controlling or something.
No, it just has to do with managing the assets of the organization.
Okay. Because I can see it's also like linked to sales distribution. You can
linked. You see, it's linked to purchaser.
Purchasing,
it's linked to MM.
Yeah, MM. Yeah. So
these are responsible. Yeah.
This one you can use this process as also your assets if you are doing implementation, because you show us something like your flow chart you use when you are
to end product walkthrough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is where we get the processes from.
Yeah, so I have, because I'm certified SAP consultant, so I have.
Yeah. You should.
But I have not really actually
Used it.
so I will use them.
Yeah. So you see, for example, this topic is asset procurement from purchase order. So this is the responsible person, the asset accountant, the purchaser, purchasing manager, warehouse clerk, all these will have a role in this process. They have a role. So for example, the asset accountant will create the master data. You go down. The next activity is create purchase order. The purchaser will create PO.
Yes.
This is an work. Purchaser will create PO. The purchaser will convert requisition to purchase order. Will create purchase requisition rather. The purchaser will convert requisition to purchase order. The purchaser will change PO if necessary. Then the next person in the line is the purchasing manager. In the flow, the purchasing manager will approve.
Yeah.
The next person is the warehouse clerk. The warehouse clerk will receive goods from the vendor. The next person is the FI person, which is the AP person. The accounts payable person will do goods receipt or invoice receipt by line item. And that ends the process of asset procurement from purchase order. So what the functional consultant will do during the product walkthrough, he will show the users how this activity happens live in SAP in conjunction with the guys, especially the consultants. Because the work of the accountant here is to create master data. The work of the consultant is to generate the PO, the procure to pay transactions. So this is what the process flow is. So as a functional consultant, you should understand these processes. This is just for assets. You have processes for a lot more activities. You should understand these processes because this is what you're going to be when you're training super users, when you're training end users, you will also need to have this information. So these are very important tools that if you say you have done projects, you cannot but mention them. Because you cannot do project without the roadmap viewer. You cannot do project without the best practice explorer. Let me check. So let me go back. Let me check particular process. Let me just do this. Okay, so let's just move. Okay, so these are very important tools that when I was in a project, I mean they were very, very helpful. So we have talked about the methodology, community, which I logged in and showed you how to ask questions, webinars, events, and all that. We have talked about the roadmap viewer, which you can use to get help, to implement your projects. We have talked about this is the activate methodology. It looks very, very thin. So you can see discovery phase, the activities you're supposed to do in discovery phase. You can see the activities you're supposed to do in prepare phase. You can see the activities you're supposed to do in explore, realize, deploy, and run. So my friends, when somebody says I did all these things, is it realistic?
No. Now I understand.
No.
Yeah.
So you take that person maybe 2 years.
Not even
Implementing SAP can take up to 2 years, right? I think
yeah, some depending on the project.
Yeah.
Depending on the project. can go up to 2 years. And the processes here are very, very serious, and one person cannot do all these things.
No. I think sometimes if they are doing this project, they have senior and junior SAP consultants together.
Yeah, exactly. You have project manager, you have lead consultant,
Yeah.
you have senior consultant, you have junior consultant.
Yeah. In each
one project.
Yeah. I think in each module as well, maybe you have.
Yeah. In each module, across modules.
Yeah.
But finance team is normally the biggest.
The biggest, yes. That is what I've heard it also. And I think you have the basics, the basic SAP consultants that give the rule, that assign the rule to each consultant as well.
Exactly. So it will be very, very unrealistic when you said you did end to end in terms of you did all the phases. No project manager will give you everything. Even project manager cannot do everything. So inside this phase, you will say that you were part of the project end to end. However, you focused more on the prepare phase and the realize phase, or you did more in the realize phase and the deploy. Or do you understand how it sounds? Guys, you can hear me, right?
Yes. So which one is the most simple? Which one is the most simplest now? Maybe where you you create, because I like this in sales distribution. We have like Anfrage, Angibot, and there's the quotation and the other process.
Yeah. Order to cash.
Order to
now,
cash.
do you know order to cash is just one process? Sales has a lot of activities.
Yes.
From the configuration side, sales is one of the difficult.
I didn't hear last statement. I didn't hear last statement.
I said sales has one of the difficult, is like one of the difficult modules to configure. But once you configure it, because they can have different sales process.
Yeah, we have.
And you have to go to the back and do sales organization, sales this, sales that.
Yeah, you have
that thing is transfer pricing. Price transfer.
Price transfer. Yeah. Price window. Yeah. You have to create the organization and also the shipments, ship to and everything.
Delivery, shipment.
Yes.
All those activities.
There's organizational structure from behind.
Yeah. So guys, that is really what it is. This is more like the methodology I summarized. So in prepare, for example, you have system preparation, team enablement, and explore, process management, culture and approve requirements, solution design, documentations. It also spilled over to realize. So realize you have planning, execution, sprint execution, agile development. Somewhere around realize and deploy, you have these other processes. So here you have implemented. Okay, so basically these are just summaries. The application lifecycle management just provides extensive implementation and operational capability. So this you use to do a life. You go through this life cycle when you want to implement your project. So you can see that this is used. This is just. You said? Okay, so you see that this is basically in the project. You go through the design phase, you build, you test, and you deploy. These tools you can use to check whether you have successfully done all these activities. So SAP has this tool that can be used to confirm if your implementation is actually going correctly. It has some ratings, and some analysis. So this is best practice. So report and tools. One, we have the process discovery. Two, we have the business processing side. Three, we have the Fiori apps. Four, we have readiness checks. Five, you have custom codes migration apps. So I'm just going to explain them. Process discovery just talks about the business process side of your project. So how do you process, what strategies do you use to elicitate the processes that are done within the organization, right? So process recovery helps business executive understand the value of moving to SAP S4HANA and other intelligent technologies. Yeah. I'm not going to stay much on that. We have the process recovery tool, which you can, is free. I think it will also mean that you have, this is the link, this is the user ID, this is the code. You can log in, it will check, try to look at the processes within the organization and how you can relate with the stakeholders about that. Right, so we have the business process intelligence starter pack. The same thing, tries to do process collaboration, give you process insights, and try to manage your process. So you have scoping and goal definition, current process modeling, implementation, rollout, and all that. Right, so these tools are in SAP, and they use them during project implementations. So we have the insights, we have the manager, and we have the collaboration. Right, so Fiori app, of course, we all know what Fiori is, just the user experience. And I want to announce to you that, guys, there are some projects you join, they don't have GUI. They don't have GUI.
This geographical user interface.
Yes, they don't have GUI. That interface, you know, that they will tell you put T code and all that. No, what you have is Fiori.
Okay, this one is this one is for S4HANA. I thought the GUI is for the old SAP system. CC.
Yeah, they can give you GUI in S4HANA, but private and public cloud, they do not provide it at all. So you have to do configuration, some of your configuration in Fiori,
but
some in GUI.
Oh, I never know that Fiori have this customizing on it, because when I was doing
it has.
I did from Fiori, we went to the old GUI to configuration from the system, and I found it weird. So why is I was surprised. I said, why is the Fiori app doesn't have its own configuration? No, okay, that's good.
Yeah, it has. It has. If they configure it in such a way, you still need the old GUI. It will try to connect. But all those things that are in the GUI are in the Fiori app.
Okay, okay.
Because people are very familiar with the GUI. People are very, very familiar with the GUI.
Yeah, I was addicted
to GUI. Yeah. So sometimes, but the user experience is there. And of course, in the coming years, GUI will phase out. Everything will be done through the Fiori app. So we need to really prepare ourselves for that. So we have the Fiori app library where you can get more information about the Fiori app. While I'm going through, I'm just going to open it while I'm moving so that we can wrap this up. So you can see what it looks like. Okay, so we have the SAP readiness check. Before you move to prepare phase, SAP has a tool that they will check if your client, how ready your client is to migrate. So the readiness tool checks the readiness of your client to migrate to the ECC platform, to the S4HANA platform. So it's a tool that is available to the project managers, to the consultants, and they can use them to check whether the organization is ready to go to the next phase. So you have the interface of the readiness tool. They have the data migration cockpit, which is very, very new and very, very simplified. So So you can see the difference. No developer skill required, step-by-step guidance, pre-configured migration objects, and of course, automized cross-object mapping. So the new data migration cockpit, we call it LTMOM, legacy data migration. I don't have that full description now, but you can use that to do your data migration through the data migration cockpit. Then, of course, for more information about the data migration, I also have a YouTube channel here where you can see more or learn more about that topic. So, progress overview. SAP has a tool that can monitor your progress. You have test management, all the tests you need to carry out. You see that you carry out tests in the explore phase, you carry out tests within the realize phase. All that you should know. And we have the test management, test execution, and test tracking. These are all tools within the SAP system. We have integration. How does SAP integrate with other modules? So you have the links. We have data migration also. We've talked about this. And we have the roadmap. So all these are links. You can see the fit to standard workshop. You can see sizing validation. You can see a lot of information on this link. Then I think we have the targeted enablement, the activities that happen within all the various phases. Quality checks are also very important. So I'm just running through this. We have your SAP support. So those who are going to be doing support is not just about T codes. Support has some real activities, right? We have the traditional plus the next generation support. You can raise incident forms. You can do real life interaction. There are digital support experience from SAP. There's AI and machine learning, right? So basically, we have also the best practice that we just saw. So basically, this is what. So this is a Fiori app library where you can know anything you want to know about Fiori app. So this is asset management. Let me say count physical inventory. So you see that how do you carry out this detail in Fiori? You can see the processes, the module extended warehouse management is the module. Then it will give you the key processes. Then it will try to show you where you can do these activities. So this is how SAP just, so there are lots of information, right, from SAP that can use to support you and your processes. So guys, we're going to end here for today. This is roughly 3 hours and 30 minutes. So I want to hear from you. At the end of this class, you should have gotten a very broad experience about project management, about the expectations from you. In the next class, we're going to be looking at something very, very important. We are now going to go deeper. We're going to do a deep dive, a very deep dive into the methodology. And there we're going to have sessions where we look at the documents for every process. So for example, in the next session, we're going to pick 2 or 3 phases. We'll pick discovery, prepare, and explore. Then we're going to have practical sessions. We're going to look at documents, explain them, hopefully share some with you. And I hope that at the end of that session, you should have better understanding of how life projects actually run, and how you can use these tools to your advantage. There are a lot of tools. So if you check here, all these, for example, if you go to requirement gathering, you have to. This is a requirement gathering analysis, requirement gathering strategy. as a consult, sorry, this thing will want to redirect me. So basically, as a consultant who is going to be working on, even though you might not be on the project side, you might be, on other areas. Sorry, I don't know why this is in here. But I had something. Okay. So somehow you're supposed to develop the requirement strategy, which will happen at the, I don't know, my Excel is having some issues. So basically, some of these documents I'm going to share with you, so you get first-hand information about some of these activities and how they happen. But before I share them, we're going to have time to explain what they are, demonstrate them in class, and so that when you go out, when you join a project, you know the information you're supposed to ask about. For example, if they bring you into the project in SAP, the first information you should ask about is the project plan. What is the project plan? The second will be if they can give you access to the business blueprint. So, if you tell them you joined the project halfway, you can say immediately I joined, I requested for the project plan, I requested for the business blueprint, I also requested for certain information that would help my job. Because for you to be on a project, you need to understand the project, you need to understand the business requirement, you need to understand the business plan. So those are the documents you ask immediately you join a project if you didn't join from the onset. So thank you guys. I would love questions, feedbacks, and we're going to have this session next weekend. Then we're going to go deeper into the real activities. Today was just to open up us up to what project management entails. So the next class we're going to look at real life documents. First of all, we're going to look at something like a project plan. So I'm going to explain the project plan. Then we'll have a session where so after the class on Saturday next week, you are going to be developing your own project plan. So we're going to be giving you these documents for you to go and look at them and try to work on them. And we're going to have something that looks like a session, a real session. We'll take it up from there. Hi, Patience.
Kelechi, don't mind me, I'm a bit inquisitive anyway. And you are going to send us the recording for this teaching, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. My friend I told you about now that she's a finance SAP finance consultant. She couldn't join this week. She said I should ask if she can join next week. Is it possible? She has to wait for another section from that she can.
Sure, she can, because I mean I've taught you. Hopefully you get the video. She can go through it, but I think next week is the core of what
Is the core. Okay, so okay, I'm going to tell her. Okay, my third question again. This PDF presentation, the one you just finished, you send it to us also, right?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much. So I got to see SAP from another point of view. It's really nice. I'm very
I wish I had this, right? I wish I had this. I would have. There's an opportunity I'm really very sad about.
Yeah.
Because all these things they were asking me. They just asked me. It was an EY interview in Ireland. I'd gotten to the last stage. I'd met the partner. The partner just asked a simple question. What are the documents you used in your project? That was I didn't know this. If you ask me that kind of question now, I'm going to chew you. Like I'm going to educate you. But unfortunately, knowledge is like that. If you're very opportune, you get it, before the opportunity comes, you're very good.
Mm.
Sometimes we miss opportunity.
Mm. Wow, it is as well. It's just the implementation part. This really parts for SAP. That's my problem now. Discussed it before and everything, and my own. I'm learning it in English, but I have to download everything in German language, because if I'm going for different interviews, it's written in German and I have to answer them in German. So I will just look at it and also maybe read maybe all this road view and everything. I will just read it in German. Better.
Very important.
So that will be more easier for me if I go through with them in interview. Now, it's really, really helpful, and I learned a lot, and I'm definitely going to use all this opportunity roadmap and the best practice and all of them. I just
yeah, you have your S number. You can access.
Yeah, I have my S number, so I'll start going very deep into it. It's a lot of document. I've seen it before. I said it's a lot of document. How can somebody go all through? But now I just like, okay, it's very good. Thank you very much for the insight. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So,
any other questions?
Hi, Kelechi, thank you so much. You have really opened my mind to so many things, right? And I know that in due time, a lot of these things will sink in our head, right? Yeah. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Guys.
Kelechi. Very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. Thank you, Jenny. Guys, let's have a good evening, and hopefully you'll get the links for the video.
Thank you very much. Regards to your family, and have enjoyed the weekend. See you next.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye everyone. Have a nice evening. I think.
Bye everyone.
Okay, Chiku, have a nice day, because you are in Canada, right?
Yeah, yes, I am.
yeah, you in Canada? In Ontario or in Toronto?
I'm in Calgary.
Huh?
Calgary.
Okay, Calgary. Yeah, okay.
Jenny, you're in Canada too, right?
Yeah, Mr. Kelechi. I'm in Montreal.
You should connect with.
Yeah.
Canada. You are in Montreal?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've been to Montreal and Ottawa and what's it called? What's the other one again?
Toronto.
Toronto, yeah. It's a nice place. I like Canada. It's nice.
Yeah, people say that a lot.
Yeah, it's really nice. I was in Kingston there this and also this Montreal.
Let's find a way to bring Kelechi life to Canada.
Do you prefer Canada or Germany? Which one do you
UK.
No. You will not like Germany because you need to learn the language.
Canada,
but
you
I'm
have to
sure.
go the long way.
I'm sure. Before I'm going to visit SAP headquarters in Canada. I must go there.
They'll come. The SAP belongs to Germany now. Come to Weidorf here. Weidorf here in Mannheim. So it's a German company. Just come.
You're the landlady.
Yeah, you are the landlady. I work with my company is SAP partner, so I work directly.
Yeah.
I work directly with the guys in education area.
All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Enjoy.
All right, bye.
Bye, everyone. Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Send this. they happen. Now they handle.